Hello everyone, Formula Finds here, ladies, gentlemen. So today I'm going to be going through Jonah Hex Comics issues 1 through 10. I will actually be going through all of them in due time, but I'm going to break it up 1 through 10 in this video and then do 11 through 20 in the next, and so forth and so on. So here it goes. So basically, if anyone here isn't familiar with Jonah Hex, he is my favorite Western character. I like him because he is imperfect. He likes his drink and his women, and his steaks are medium rare, and he stands his ground. But basically, he makes the wrong decision a lot of the times. Not because he didn't know, just because he's imperfect, and he's greedy, and he's got feelings, and he screws up, and he's imperfect, and he's relatable. So that's why I like him personally. He's not like a lot of the other Western characters, where you kind of have a Superman persona, where they're, perfect and save the woman in the world and so forth and so on. This guy has a lot of mistakes. So anyways, this is issue number 1, and it was written by Michael Fleischer, and the artwork was Jose Luis Garcia. Oh God, I can't remember. It was Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, that's what it was. Keep forgetting that, the order of the 4 names there. And the other artists were Tony DiZanita, which was actually my favorite Western artist, and then Ernie Chan, who was my 3rd favorite. And they took turns doing the artwork in the first 10. So for this issue, it starts out in Tennessee in 1874 with 3 men beating the crap out of Jonah Hex. And basically, a doctor comes and saves him and tells the men that he's needed to save a young boy for a $20,000 bounty. And it kind of leads into him being a bounty hunter and why people hate him and why even the people who hate him need him. And this is the first issue, and that is the artwork. And not Tony Disney, it was Jose Luis Garcia Lopez's artwork. And that's issue number 1. And here we got issue number 2. I do all this stuff on the fly, so that's why I make mistakes talking, but I try to keep it more natural that way. So issue number 2, this was the first appearance of El Papagoyo. And out of all the issues, this one was my favorite out of all of them. I think it kind of leads into all the other issues the best, and kind of gives you an idea of where the story was headed. And artwork again is Jose, and yeah, he's a pretty good artist, I think. It's basically, in this story, he heads to Texas, and he gets falsely accused for holding up a store, and the sheriff named Landon realizes that the government needs Hex to bring in a dangerous bandit, basically, and they're willing to pay Jonah Hex some good money to do it. And so he gets into a big intertwined web of just a mess of different people all pulling him different directions, and he's got to fight his way out of that. And this was my favorite issue out of the first 10, and that's number 2. And here quickly, we have issue number 3. In this one, it's a continuation of number 2, obviously. But what happened is he is a fugitive, and he's wanted for $10,000. And what happened was, basically, he was accused he had the false accusation of murder at issue number 2. And what had happened is the person that he thought he could get out, he thought that was able to save him, who knew that he was innocent, which was the Sheriff Landon, actually was the guy who basically committed the murders and is the reason why Jonah Hex is in the trouble that he's in. So the only guy that could save him ended up being the person that put him in this whole situation. And that is issue number 3. And here we have issue number 4. I won't get into the story of this too much, but it starts out as a criminal disguising to be Jonah Hex. And what had happened was this guy who was disguising to be Jonah Hex actually robs a stagecoach. And when the real Jonah Hex comes by, well, the guns start firing and Hex is in a whole heap of trouble because they think it's him. It's just more of the bad luck that he has. This was done by Jose again, but this was the last issue that Jose did until I think issue 10 actually. Yeah, I think it was 10. But yeah, that's issue number 4, and it was called The Day of the Chameleon. Alright, moving on. Number 5. This was the first issue where Tony DiZuniga was the artist, and he was my favorite out of all the 3. This was actually my favorite cover out of all of them. It just stuck with me for a long time. And I won't get into the story too much on this one, but it's called Welcome to Paradise, I believe. And it's a story of a gang of thieves that's Jonah basically has to assist in getting rid of, and he befriends a boy and some other people in the meantime, and some of his friends that turn into be his enemies. And I really like Tony's artwork the most. It just kind of gave a 3-dimensional look in his drawings. I think he drew Jonah Hex the best, and the way he should have looked. I've read all of his issues, and you kind of had an idea of how he was supposed to look and act. And I thought he did a really good job of it. Just the colors were really good, and I like how he drew them. So that is issue number 5, probably one of my favorite issues. Probably my second favorite, but I'm not going to rank them after that. Favorite cover though. So that's issue number 5. Number 6. If I had to label which one I disliked the most out of the top 10, it'd probably be number 6. I just thought the story kind of didn't really have a pathway as much as the other ones did, and it kind of didn't really blend together. This was the first time Ernie Chan drew for Jonah Hex, and he had a little bit of a different style, kind of more of like a journey to mystery horror style drawing, depending on who the artist was. But I didn't like the way he drew Hex and some of the faces. I thought they were a little bit bland. But he did have certain styles too that, you know, he did say that people liked. But he just didn't seem to draw Hex the way I thought that he should have been. But the story was so-so in this one. It didn't really flow into it. Kind of had its own little story in my opinion. And that was kind of the end of it. But yeah, so probably my least favorite out of the top 10, and my least favorite artist. Not a terrible artist, but my least favorite out of 3. So that is Jonah Hex number 6. So issue 7 is where the story of how Jonah's face ends up the way that it is. Issue 7 was a flashback to his younger days, and I thought this was actually a really good issue, and it discussed how basically in his early life and how he was sold to the Indians and what the Indians wanted from him and how he got his face, how it looks the way that it does. But it also is interesting because it kind of delves into his past time, as you can see here with his father, and how he grew up and kind of how he has the personality that he has. So it wasn't in the modern day. This issue is more of a reflection of how he came to be. And that was a good issue. Issue number 7. Issue 8 was more of a continuation of how he got his face and what he did in the eyes of the Apaches to get it, and the punishments, and how he had to get out of it. So more of his early life and how he was sold to the Indians, and more Ernie Chan artistry. I won't open this one up. That's issue number 8. Issue number 9 was the first appearance of Colonel Sanchez, who's really not anyone special, but him and his posse, El Papagoya, basically end up, it's a good cover, and the cover basically tells the story. But he ends up tying him up and leaving him out to dry, basically, towards the end of the story. And they tie him up, and they basically have some killer flesh-eating ants that they're gonna lay all over the place and kill him. And it's kind of got the narrative of a 60s or 70s James Bond style movie, to where the bad guy just ends up, the villain leaves, the villain leaves some sort of death trap or something murderous that's gonna kill you, and then he just leaves and assumes that everything's gonna go to plan. And that was a lot of this issue right here, and that was issue number 9. And finally, with issue number 10, we finally went back to Jose Luis being the artist, which was nice, and rounds out the top 10. And for the story, there's more conflicts with El Papagoya, and what had happens was he ends up getting thrown in jail, and what happens is a woman kind of sneaks his way into jail and tricks the guards and so forth to getting him out, but the woman is also kind of responsible for a lot of the problems that he's facing anyway, so she's not the biggest sweetheart of them all. But at the end of this issue, you kind of got the idea, and he narrates himself that he kind of wants to move on from his life and maybe simmer down, and he's getting too old for this and kind of wants to move on and not be a bounty hunter and always have to fight for his life every day. So I guess we'll have to see on whether that actually happens or not. And that's how it rounds out the top 10 issues. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to do 11 through 20 next time. And if you guys like the content, I like Jonah Hex, and want to see more, yeah, please subscribe. It's always great. It motivates me to want to make more videos. But that's why I'll end it. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. And thanks for watching.